welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is another episode of Put It Together Conversations. Welcome to the show. I'd like to welcome everybody watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can be part of the conversation, so make sure you go into the video and make any questions or comments about our guest today. If you're watching us on YouTube, would you do me a favor? Scroll down, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and make sure that you're notified every time we have a new show. For everybody watching, we have shows every day of the week. So on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, we have our shows through Limited Productions. And every Monday morning, you can join me on TikTok for Breakfast with the Comadres. It's at about 9 o'clock in the morning on TikTok, Monday to Friday. So join me for some readings there and a little bit of conversation. Remember, Put It Together Conversation is a show about folks. It's about you, where you come from, where you are now, and what your journey has been like. And the idea is to motivate and inspire other people to go after their dreams and goals. And I hope that today's conversation inspires you to go after your dreams and your goals. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. My guest today is Rene DeAnda. And here it is. Where did I leave her bio? Rene has immersed herself in the physics of the law of attraction for well over a decade. She has learned how our physical bodies are electromagnetic and how they attract people, things, and situations of like frequencies to them. Shortly after learning about the law of attraction, she realized it wasn't as easy as it was made out to be. She noticed that many people would have a few successful manifestations, but had difficulty in maintaining a high enough vibration or frequency to sustain the perpetual manifestation of their most desired reality. She learned that one tool does not keep an engine running at optimum capacity. Therefore, she created a toolbox stocked with tools to assist in keeping our electromagnetic engines running at top performance so that we might experience the excitement of purposeful perpetual manifestation. How's that for a tongue twister? Without further ado, let me bring Rene onto the show. Hi, Rene.
Hi, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining us. How's it going? How you been?
I've been doing fantastic. Thank you so much.
For those of you that always wonder where I met my guests, Rene and I met on Alignable. If you're not on Alignable, you should try it out. It's a great place to network and socialize with other people in your industry, either in your area or across the country. For those of you interested, I administer 2 pages there, one for Latinos and one for LGBTQ community. So if you're a business owner, whether Latino or LGBTQ or both, find me on Alignable and join the group, and you will see me there. And that's how we connected. I did ask you before we started, because I'm like, I know it's going to sound very conceited, but I run several groups. And I'm like, where did we meet? But Alignable. How do you like the webpage? How do you like being on the service?
I like it. I've connected with several people and have given some recommendations and pulled on some other people to grow the platform.
Yeah. I find that it's really cool when you connect with people that are in your industry, because it's a really good platform to have those both constructive conversations, and it also gives you a little place to vent a little bit about your frustrations or things that are blocking you, and people understand immediately what you're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yes, because they're all business owners or small business owners, and they all kind of have the same, not the same issues, but similar issues.
Right. Especially when we were going through the lockdown, just to be able to see how other people in the industry were making it work. It's such a great resource. So check it out, folks.
Yeah.
I was admiring your blouse before we started the show. I just love those colors. Green's one of my favorite colors, so I just really liked it. So it looked very nice.
I liked it because it looks electric.
There you go. And it's going to fit the theme of the conversations today. But before further ado, Rene DeAnda, tell us how you put it together.
Okay. So thank you so much for having me. And how I put it together. Well, so I had to put it together because my life kind of fell apart. So over a decade ago, I got caught up in some addiction, and I had a friend. Actually, she was a new neighbor at the time. She wasn't my friend yet, but she ended up being my friend and introducing me to the law of attraction and introducing me to the concepts. And when I started understanding that we control the mechanism that we are, the electromagnetic mechanism that we are, well, first of all, I didn't even know that we were. And then when I found out that I was, then I was able to learn how to drive it and how to steer it and how to maintain it. And I was able to drive myself out of addiction, and I was able to drive myself out of my day job and into this position that I'm in now, which is helping other people learn how the electromagnetic body works and what it is, how it works, how to maintain it, and how to keep it running smoothly so that you can manifest the reality that you actually want. It's amazing. It's truly amazing.
That's pretty interesting, because I know we talked, we met before and we talked. I don't remember if I mentioned that when you talked about law of attraction, that I found out about law of attraction when I was going through rehab. That's where I first discovered it.
We did, yes.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Okay, cool. Yeah. Did you realize when that bit of information came up to you that a lot of us don't realize that the law of attraction works both ways, in the dark and in the light? That because I didn't realize until I just got chills. I didn't realize until I learned about it in that moment that the negative things that I was attracting in my life were because I was attracting them into my life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes. And no, I didn't know that. So I have to tell you, so there was a lady, I remember sitting in the car and I was very agitated. And when you're going through addiction, you go through so many uncomfortable feelings. You're just not comfortable in your skin at all. And I remember sitting in a parking lot, and there was a convenience store in front of me. And I remember seeing a lady get out of her car, and she just kind of hopped out of her car and she went in and grabbed a drink and came right back out. And she was just very fluid. And in my mind, she was so normal. And I just wanted to feel normal again. And that was the beginning of turning my engine around, turning my vessel around. That desire to feel normal again and to start attracting that again. And that was when that started to happen for me. But I still didn't know it until later, that that's what I was doing at the moment. But then when I figured out that we are electromagnetic and it does work 24/7. So you have to be, once you know that, then you can actually, like I say, steer it, because once you know that your thoughts are electric and your emotions are magnetic and they get together and they create this electromagnet, then they start to pull, your engine pulls like frequencies to it, like situations to it. And really it's not pulling it to you. What it's really doing is that you become resonant with it. When you change your vibration, you resonate with different levels. So I was in despair. I was in anger and despair and hopelessness, all of that, agitation, frustration, anxiety. I was there, and I would attract more of that to myself. I attracted people who were like that, situations that were like that, all of it. And but once I realized that the mechanism works 24/7 and I could control it with my thoughts and emotions, that's when I started pulling it around and turning it around. And it was kind of like turning the Titanic around for me. But,
right.
But I did it. And one day at a time, one foot in front of the other. I don't know if you remember, I think it was on Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah.
No,
Rudolph.
Yeah, where the guy's like one foot in front of the other. Right? And I sang that song to myself almost daily once I figured out what I was doing. And I would actually do the motion and everything because I thought it would, and it did. It helped. And I was able to steer my thoughts and emotions in a more positive direction and get myself out.
Yeah, there is because I come from addiction as well and alcoholism, there was when I went to rehab, and it just happened that there was a book about the law of attraction, The Secret.
Mm-hmm.
One of the great things about the rehab that I went to in Dickinson was that it was not exclusive AA. It was we had books, we had the Bible, we had the Law of Attraction,
Mm-hmm.
we had Joel Osteen, we had all these different
Mm-hmm.
books, and we were encouraged to read them to
Mm-hmm.
find our path, because they knew that not everybody was going to follow a 12-step program. It's like,
Yeah.
what works best for you so that we can get the best outcome out of you. And that's when I found out that, especially being in my addiction, because addiction is already chaotic, that the vibration and the energy that I was putting out was just bringing all that people to me. And I only saw the world in the colors of addiction, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like that's all I could see. And when people were like, life is great, I was like, life sucks, because that's all I knew. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. When I remember when I was in there, it was like being in a tunnel. I had like tunnel vision, and all I could see was the next thing I had to do to get to the next fix. Really, to be quite frank. And whether it meant, oh geez, I don't have any clean clothes at all, I guess I need to do one load of laundry. It wasn't like a laundry day. It was like, I guess I'll work this load in because I don't have anything to wear, that type of thing. And I'm happy to say I've come a long way, but it was that folk, blinders on, tunnel-esque feeling. And that one of the workshops that I give is called Learning to Dance in the Tunnel. And that's basically what I had to do. I had to learn to get happy in that tunnel. I had to learn to look for the positive and appreciate what I could. And in order to get out of that tunnel, and you really don't get out of the tunnel when you start revving up your own electromagnetic engine and steering it yourself, you light up the tunnel. And then you can see the obstacles around you, and you can see how to maneuver your engine. And what we used to be really, what I would think were really big obstacles in the tunnel, once you light up that tunnel from within, then the obstacles, they're just little, they're not as huge as they appeared, and then they were easy to maneuver around.
Yeah, and that's, I believe, as I've gotten older, because I just celebrated 14 years clean and sober, and I feel like, thank you, I feel like as I've gotten older and the longer I'm in sobriety, recovery, that although I know it's different tunnels that I go through in my life, because each one represents a different part of my life, that you kind of start learning that you're going to bump your head in the shadows. You're going to trip. There's going to be some scars. But as long as I go into it knowing that I need to learn a lesson, and that when I learn that lesson, that light that you talk about, you're like, oh, I see the end of the tunnel now. There it is. Yeah. Not that it becomes, it becomes easier. It becomes easier to maneuver. And I don't have to go to that dark place where I used to go to when something would happen in my life. Does that make sense?
Yes. So that's part of my journey too, is along the way, I learned that the law of attraction wasn't as easy as they made it out to be. Like you said in the intro, it's often portrayed where you just kind of focus on something positive and then all these positive things will just fall in your lap. And it's not exactly. It's not exactly like that. It's kind of a bait and switch type thing, if you ask me, when they present it that way, because when they present it that way, what often happens is people are able to manifest one or two things of significance, and then all of a sudden there's this blockage, and they have a tough time figuring out, well, it just worked and now it's not working, and then they get caught up in this loop because they're looking at it not working, and so they get more of it not working because that's what they're focused on. And so it's just learning some tools to get you out of, first of all, learning how it really works, and it's physics. It's not this woo-woo thing that a lot of people seem to make it out to be or think it is. It's actual physics. And we really truly are an electromagnetic engine, and in the literal sense of the word. And so it's just learning how it works and then applying the principles. But along the way, I found out that I needed tools to get back on track. I found out I needed certain tools. So what I did is I became a holistic stress management instructor. I became certified in that. I studied with Brian Luke Seward. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's world renowned instructor for holistic stress management techniques, and he studied under Kubler-Ross. And so I was very fortunate to get to study with him. I kind of accosted him in the parking lot and made him
Talk about manifestation. That's a good manifestation.
It really was, because I called and I was like, I need to get in this class. But I actually talked to him direct, and he said, come on in, and we worked it all out. And because this was at the very beginning when there were no funds, and my job wasn't going to pay for it. And so I really had to, stalk the guy in the parking lot, quite literally. But we all worked it out, and he taught me what I needed to know, and we got him squared away. And so now I have all these tools, and the tools are everything from breathing, different breathing techniques. Sometimes you can't, you don't have time to get out your paintbrush and paint something when you need to decompress. you need to do it on the spot, in the moment, in the line at the grocery store, or in the car when people are road raging all around you. You need to be able to center yourself and drive your own engine, and not let those things interfere with your own mechanism.
Yeah. So before we continue, I want to remind everybody you're watching Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is Rene, and we're talking about balancing yourself, centering yourself, and the law of attraction. So if you're watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, remember you can join the conversation. If you have any questions or comments, please enter them into the video, and I will make sure that she reads them. You talked earlier about people getting, I feel like it's that Costco way of promotions. Like we even in recovery, like they tell you the promises, you get that first little taste of what this new life is going to be about. And they just give you that sample, like that Costco sample. It's like, here you go, try this. And then you're like, I like it. And they're like, well, now you have to buy the rest of it. And I feel like in that part it's where the lost in translation moment happens. How did you transition from, wait a minute, I've already expired my test time, like the expiration date of the trial period. How did you transition into actually making it work for you? Does that make sense?
The law of attraction?
Yeah, and just changing your life too.
So I listened to Abraham Hicks. Is one of several different people I listen to, but I doodle. So when I listen to stuff, I doodle, and I would listen. And then I also listen to Daryl Anka, and he channels an entity called Bashar. And so between the two of them, there's actually three. There's another one. Lee Carroll channels an entity named Cryon. And they all three give the same basic message, but they all three have their own take on it, if you will. And some of them are very detailed, and some of them are very matter of fact, and some of them are very esoteric. So I kind of combine them all. And I like to draw on butcher paper. And so I would spread out my butcher paper, and I would take these notes, and then I would listen again and again and again until I actually was able to put the physics of it all together. And that's when I made my switch. When I figured out it was physics and not this pie in the sky woo-woo entity that would just give you stuff. That's when it happened for me. That's when I was able to see it on paper and see the blueprint and say, that's how it works. And I drew it and I drew it and I drew it and I drew it and I painted it on this huge roll of paper, and I took it around and that huge roll of paper and I showed it to different people. I would like roll it across the floor and they would just look at me with these wide eyes like, what are you even talking about? And so it took a couple years for it to kind of catch up with society. And now I think it's ripe. So it's finally time.
Gotcha. We do have a question on the board for you. So, Renee, what exercises do you do to cleanse your energy every day?
So I have this breathing technique, and thank you for the question. What I do is I breathe in and I fill up my gut and my lungs and my gut. And so it's swollen. It takes about 3 seconds to do that. You breathe in and then you breathe out for 10 to 15 seconds. And when I do it, I hum. So it tends to get the electromagnetic engine going and revved up. And the other thing that this may sound kind of weird, but shaking. You know how dogs just shake? If you just kind of let yourself kind of just go limp and just shake, it will, it kind of, for me, it feels like it just gets off anything that's glommed on that shouldn't be there. And it makes me feel refreshed. So those are two things that I do that help me on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when I have intuitives and energy workers on the show, because I always learn something else that they do. Because I like a shower. I like to get in the shower and just rinse both physically and spiritually my energy off, and just do my meditations where I'm just feeling the water. It's just like, you get out and it's like, okay, I'm ready to go, even if it's for a couple of minutes. But yeah, and then for everybody out there, if you ever just need a nap, if your energy is over and you're able to take like a little 5-minute nap, I feel like a lot of us are able to just go, okay, I need to disconnect for a minute. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's that when your computer is glitching, when they tell you turn it off and turn it back on again. I feel like our energetic computer needs to disconnect for a minute sometimes.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. It does. I thought of something else, but now I can't. It's gone again.
Before we continue, I want to make sure, because we talked about this when we first met, the artwork behind you is one of your pieces, correct?
It is. So I'm excited about my sculpture because I took a class at a place called Lumonics here in Denver, and we were supposed to build a light box, and it was just supposed to be a box. And I took the class and I didn't know what I was going to build. And because like I said, I drew this stuff over and over and over, and it's what I think about all the time. And so it stood to reason that it ended up being my teaching piece, because it is a representation of our electromagnetic body. I can't hear you.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it is a representation of our electromagnetic body, basically. So inside of it, you'll see a picture. Oh, wrong side. This side, that it has like, hold on and I'll get it. 1 second. Okay. So this is in the middle, is on the inside. I don't know how to turn this. Can you see that? It has the heart. There's a heart right here, and it's pulsing. Oh, wow. And the blue represents water, and it's hanging from a piece of wood. And then there's metal. You can see the heartbeat going up here. It's in metal. And there's crystals in there. There's air in there. There's all the elements are represented in there. And that's important, because that's, we are all of those things. So, and then there's a little peephole in the back, so you can see all that. It's all on the inside. And then the outside has the tree of life, which is made out of multicolored copper wire, to represent all the races. And then there's a little piece of DNA represented there, and the passion, I call it the dragon's heart, is represented there. And then the heartbeat is represented, and then which is pulsing out your electrical thoughts, and the swirls are the emotions, and then the little tendrils are the electromagnet. So they get together and they create that electromagnet. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I wanted to make sure that folks, because it's right behind you, so people are going to see it. But I wanted to make sure that we talked about it because it just represents like all the elements and the energy. And so for those of you at home, you're like, what can I have at home to like balance? Have something creates. Oh, I just got chills. Create something that brings all the elements into your home and make sure that it brings that balance. Because we have another question on the board for you.
Okay.
How could one cleanse their home or sanctuary of negative electromagnetic waves?
So for me, well, there's two things. I use selenite to anchor the light into my home. And I put, bars just like that. And I put them in all four corners of the house. And then I have a larger one, which is somewhere over there, that there's a video on YouTube that tells how to anchor the light using selenite. And you basically, you stand in the middle of the house and you give it the instructions, and it anchors the light in the house. So I've done that. But then the other thing is, once you start doing this, and once you start revving your engine on purpose and driving it on purpose, your body does it. Your bubble will clear it because you pack that light, you pack that charge. Once you start going in a positive direction more and more and more frequently, then you get brighter, 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 and your bubble gets bigger, bigger, bigger. And the negative vibes just really can't touch you once you're in that mode, because once you get spinning, it's like being in the zone, like basketball players when they just can't miss. It's like that. You're in this zone and you're like this little ball of electricity zipping around, and it's so quick. You're so quick and so together, and your energy is so tight that it's like they can't touch you. Yeah.
It's when, like, for those of you watching, it's when somebody, I'm sure you all have these friends that you're like, the moment they walk in the room, everybody's just in a good mood. The moment they walk in the room, they just light the room up. And people who don't understand that look at them and go, I don't get it. But it's those people that the moment they're around you, you're like, just talking to you makes me feel better. And it's those people that have that type of energy. Is that right?
Absolutely. Now, and one other thing I'd like to add, when I'm in a group of people, or I'm at the store, or in a crowd, or if I'm with somebody who's hangry or just not, they're not vibing in the right direction with me, then I do something in my mind with my energy. And that is, a lot of people will shield, and I do the opposite. I tell my energy to become like a louver. How your shades, in windows, and you can turn them and they open or they close. I open mine up, and I picture them being vertical, and I just open them up. And so any negative energy just goes straight through. It just goes straight through my vessel, and it doesn't glom on. It just goes through, because I don't like being in a tight bubble where everything's closed off, because if things can't get in, then I can't get out. So I turn my energy into like louvers, and I do it mentally, but it works.
Yeah. There's a connection that I have with not just clients, but really close friends that I've read for, or I've worked with their energy. I always tell them, like, once I work with your energy, it's kind of like there's a file in my brain for you. So, and if something is off with you, I feel it. And they're always like, when I text them, like, hey, check it in on you. I was like, how did you know? I'm like, because I can feel your energy coming through me. Like, I know something is up.
Yeah.
And I'm not just randomly like, do you believe me now that I have super special powers? Let me just remind everybody, for everybody watching, this is Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host. Yes, I'm your ghost and host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is Rene, and we're talking about energy and cleansings and how to protect yourself. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, please submit your questions, send your questions, join the conversations either on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. Thank you for joining us. What else do you want to tell us about?
So I'm in the process of making this toolbox. And basically it's going to be, they're going to be cards, and it'll be all my artwork. I use my artwork to explain how it works a lot. Like, I'll draw and explain and draw and explain. So I ended up with a lot of this really bright digital artwork, and you can see it on my website. But and my website is at understandyou.com, and it's the letter U. So my mind just went blank. I'm so sorry, Daniel.
It's okay.
But what was I talking about?
Your cards.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. So each card will be a tool, and it will be a drawing that I've done and digitized, so it'll be really bright. And so there's one that's for art, and there's one for aromatherapy, and there's one for music and dance and reframing, pivoting, all these different things. So all these different tools. And the toolbox is important because, you know, if you only have one tool, you can only fix one issue or two issues. You can't fix the whole car. So you need a whole toolbox, and you need to know how to use them, and you need to know when to pull them out. You need to know, you know, if you're going to do quick breath work, how that works, or if you're going to do tapping, like the EFT tapping, how to do it, when to use it, and things of that nature. So they'll all have descriptions on how to use them. And what I envision is people carrying them around with them, and then when they get stuck, they can just lay them all out and pick one and do it. Because a lot of times when you're spinning, you don't think about, oh, I need to drink water, or, oh, I need to take a walk, or, you know, I need to breathe. Sometimes people just hold their breath, you know, when they're anxious, and it's like, oh yeah, I need to breathe and get some oxygen to my brain. So, you know, something so simple, but it'll have its own card. And then that should be coming up. I'm still working on the deck, so I'm hopeful to have that within the next month or so.
Nice. I'll be excited because for those of you that follow the shows know that I've been working on my own energy cleansing, balancing deck. So it'd be cool to both of us to come back and talk about our individual decks and how they work. And
that'd be great.
Now, as you talk about toolbox, because we, those of us that work in the energy fields, we've learned to accumulate all these tools, but not all the tools are for everybody, and not everybody connects to every tool, right?
That's right. That's right. I don't connect to the hiking tool very much, you know, but I'll tap.
Yeah, because I tell people hiking for fun, running for fun. No, that's and some people like will suggest exercising. I'm like, for me, going to the gym is more stressful than the stress that I'm already in. But I can get in the kitchen and cook something, and take produce or meats or whatever, and make something for me and Christian, and to sit down and eat that, like, that calms my energy. What are some of your favorite personal tools?
So Some of my favorite personal tools are art. I love to draw. I don't really consider it drawing. I doodle, and then I digitize the doodle. And the digitization part of it is very relaxing for me because I do it on my phone, and it's just really relaxing for me. And then I use reframing a lot because I've learned to take a situation and try to see the good in it and try to see the lesson in it. And then once I can reframe it into something that I can stomach, then, uh-oh, I'm losing you.
Uh-oh.
It says you may want to plug in your PC, but I thought it was plugged in. Uh-oh.
That's okay.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me just run around.
Sure, of course. For those of you, while she is doing that, I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the moment and show y'all. Remember that we have several shows on the network, so make sure that you check us out. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Christian and Daniel show. And some of our friends are co-hosting with us, so make sure that you stick around and watch for future episodes because we'll have some of our friends that are on this show come over to Christian and Daniel and join us there. The Cardivo show, it's every Friday at 5 p.m., so check out that. And then 2 shows on Saturday with Put It Together on noon and 5. But every once in a while, we throw in some special shows, so make sure that you follow us on any other platforms to get notifications. And if you're not watching me on TikTok, why not? Why aren't you following me on TikTok? Join me every morning, Monday to Friday, about 9 o'clock for my breakfast. And it's Breakfast with the Comadres. So bring your coffee, bring your breakfast, and join us for some card readings while we have some breakfast. So do that. Are we good?
We're good now.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're talking about your favorite tools when you need to.
Yeah. So another one is just soaking in a tub with some Epsom salts. I find the Epsom salts really do help with the electromagnetic body and drinking water. And I also use a lot of aromatherapy as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have something else in common because I edit my videos or I edit pictures or the announcements for the shows, and to get on my computer and to be able to like lose myself in what I'm creating, whether it's going to take me 5 minutes or an hour or more, but I get so lost in it that everything that was bothering me, that sometimes it's just our head that creates these scenarios that my head's like, nope, those are not real. This is real. So let's focus on this. And it just completely changes my energy around. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How has everything that you do, the tools, the law of attraction, this new mentality, how did that affect your relationship with people, places, and things around you?
It changed a lot. So I didn't realize what was happening at the time, like I said, until later when I understood how it all worked. But as I moved, as I steered towards a more positive lifestyle, all of the negative people and situations just kind of started falling off on the other end. And then I was able to surround more neutral. I became more neutral to where it was almost like there was this time where there was a big period of time where I just didn't really hang out with anybody other than my husband. It's just this big period of time where it was just this lull, which was good because I needed it just to pull myself together. But now I'm finding my tribe now, and it's taken over a decade, but it's working. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it's not a horrible experience moving through it. It's actually quite a pleasant experience, learning about it, learning how it works, applying it, seeing results. And you don't pick the worst thing you want to change first. You pick something small and you do it, and then you realize, oh, I did that. And then you work on the next thing and I did that. And then you just kind of move up the scale. So it does. It changes who you hang out with and who can see you, because you can't see what you don't resonate with. And so that's very true.
That is such a cool phrase. Before I who can see you, because I feel like when I was in my addiction, when I didn't know how to value myself,
Mm-hmm.
I somehow, again, talking about attraction, I attracted people who saw the negative in me and knew that I would be a good I guess collaborator,
Commiserator. Yeah.
a partner in
Yeah.
crime
Yeah.
for the situations. Because I would say, no matter what city I lived in, when I lived in the darker side of my energy,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what city I went to, it was instantly, I would instantly connect with the people that knew where the drugs were, where to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And then, like you, I had to learn how to be alone for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what you think about this, but I realized that one of the most intimidating relationships that I've ever had was with myself. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
Yes, it does. I was the same way. And now I've learned that I'm never alone, and I work with my universal friends all the time. And now it's this fun, exciting game that it's a perpetual state of being, I guess.
Yeah.
And now I find people to collaborate with instead of commiserate with. Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't want folks to go away thinking also that, like, we're selling them this wonderful, what do they call them? Snake oil.
No.
There is still times when loneliness creeps in, or sadness creeps in, or anger. I mean, being optimistic doesn't mean being positive all the time, or positive.
No.
Does that make sense to you? Can you tell
Oh,
us
yeah.
about that?
Sure. So anger feels better than despair. I mean, that's moving up the emotional scale. If you can go from despair to anger, you've moved up a notch. If you can move from anger into frustration, you've moved up a notch. Even though it's still not the best feeling, you've still moved up a notch. So, climbing that emotional scale is not easy all the time. But once you know how it works, and once you understand it, and you can prove to yourself how it works, then there's that light at the end of the tunnel. Now I can get out. Now I'm not spinning around, driving backwards or whatever. I'm not letting anybody else drive. I'm driving my engine. I don't let the news drive. I don't let the pandemic drive. I don't let politics drive. I don't let religion drive. I don't let my spouse drive. I get to drive. Yeah. So, and once you do that, it's such it's very liberating. Even when you're in the lower part of the scale, it's still liberating if you're in the driver's seat. Because when you're in the driver's seat, you don't have to stay in anger for a long time. You can, you can process that emotion, figure it out, and move up. Yeah,
I tell people it's not like I don't get mad at things sometimes. Like God, the universe, and life never sent me a memo that said, okay, you're an energy worker, you're clean and sober, you have everything that you need, so you can't get mad anymore. They were like, no, let's teach you how to process the anger. Let's teach you how to process the sadness and the loneliness, so that you don't fall back into old habits or old people, places, and things. Does that make sense?
Yep. So a lot of it was just kind of shoved down, emotions that I didn't want to deal with were just kind of shoved down. And in this process, I learned how to, as they come up, deal with them. So we do a lot of that because they do come up.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm a hangry person. I definitely am a hangry person. Hunger kicks in. And when I say I'm hungry, like I'm hungry. Yep. So make me wait 5 minutes and I'm going to get a little irritated. But that's just my human. It doesn't take away from me seeing the positive side of things or being optimistic about things. I'm just hungry. Give me a taco and I'll be fine. I'll be okay.
Well, and that's a tool. So like when my husband and I are the same way. When we're hangry, we have an agreement that everything just stops. We stop talking, and we figure out what we're eating and we do that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Christian and I have similar things that we're like, I'm like, look, let's just take a pause right now because we're not moving the conversation forward. And let me just come back to you with this. So let me remind everybody, you're watching Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is Rene DeAnda, and we're talking about energy and your feelings and emotions and how to process them and how to work with them. Remember, if you want to be part of the conversation, join us, enter your questions or comments. If you're watching us on replay, remember, you can still comment or ask a question, and I'll make sure that we get it to her so she can respond to you. This is the time of the show where we ask our guests to share some words of wisdom with the audience. So, Rene, what words of wisdom do you have for us?
My words of wisdom are, it doesn't matter how many tools you have, if you don't open the toolbox, they don't work.
Bingo. Yes.
So
I encounter clients and people that I work with that they come to me so prepared, and I'll put that in quotes. Oh, I've read this, I've done that, I did this webinar, and I'm like, so why aren't you using it right now?
Right.
And they're like, I'm like, what's the point of going to all these things and doing all this work if then you're not, like, don't spit it out at me and tell me how much you know. Use it. And does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep. Because you can have all the tools in the world, but if you don't actually take one out and put it to use, then it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's like having a spare tire in your car and driving on a flat.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Right?
Yes. Or just, parking it and then it sits there with the spare tire underneath,
Yeah. I remember that. What is your thoughts on fear?
Fear will hijack your car. It will hijack the driver's seat in a second, man. So it's just getting used to recognizing it when it's there. So that's Abraham Hicks talks about this. They talk about catching things early. So recognizing your emotion of fear and recognizing, or any emotion for that matter, but recognizing it when it comes up. If you don't feel aligned, then you want to know why. And then if you just ask the question, what's going on with me, something will come up for you. And when that comes up, then you have something to work with.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of time, I belong to this over 40 gay man's group on Facebook. And one of the topics that comes up very regularly is, I'm older, will I ever find love? Or I'm afraid that at this age, I'm not going to find my partner. And I'm afraid that, I'm like, well, if you put that much energy into wanting to find somebody, then instead of fear, you might be able to do it. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think if you can turn that energy on into learning how to drive the engine, then what happens is you end up in this very personal space, and that you can actually kind of be with yourself for a little while. And then that helps you to turn it around, because you don't need somebody there to help you turn it around. You don't really want that. You want your own energies and your own thoughts and your own emotions turning your ship around, because otherwise somebody else is driving once again. So you get it turned around, and then when you're turned around and you're going in the direction you want, that's when you attract the people into your life, your tribe, into your life, and they can see you. But they can't see you until you do that work. So you've really got to do that work first. Otherwise, you're attracting the same old, same old. You know, if you're looking at what is, you're going to get more of what is. If you're looking at what you've done in the past, well, I've always done it this way. I've always done it this way. Well, how's that working out for you? You know, and so if it's not, then you have to change it. You have to change what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Everybody says, look at your, be in the now. And there's a difference between being in the now and looking at your now. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Because that kind of tied into my next question, which is, or comment was, some people come to me and say, well, I've been doing like this all my life. Or like, oh, I am who I am. And then we fall into the, I'm right and everybody else is wrong. Mm-hmm. I've dated 20 men and they all treated me like crap. So it's their fault. And sometimes I feel like you just said, like, well, have you looked at yourself for a minute?
Right.
Because I don't know if you agree or disagree that we're not always in the right. We're not always driving down the right path, and we need to make some adjustments, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, if you find yourself being the common denominator, then there's something there. You know, if you keep attracting the same type of individual over and over and over, and that individual is not good for you, then there's something that you're emitting that's attracting that individual or that type of individual. So you have to figure out, what am I emitting? What am I still hanging on to? Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I mad? What am I? You know, and identify that emotion that you're emitting on a regular basis to attract that.
Yeah, because I just feel like, I don't know if in your practice, I get a lot of questions sometimes about exes and relationships, and like, will my ex come back to me? And I'm like, why? If you're still vibrating the same energy.
Let me show you this real quick.
Cool. So
this picture right here is time. So time goes in a spiral, right? And the purple chains that are on it represent exactly what you're saying. So they represent, I call them paper tigers or paper chains, because that X is going to come back, and because you're going to get shiny. What happens as you move through this process, you get shinier and shinier, right? And X's will definitely be like, ooh, shiny. And they're going to come back. And it's really kind of like a test. It's kind of like, it's kind of hollow, like a paper house. And you're going to say, have I grown? Have I learned? Have I, you know, and there's going to be a part of you that still loves that individual. And you're going to say, but I still love that individual. Well, of course you still love that individual, but you love yourself more now. And if that individual can't meet you where you are, and they're still that same old individual, then it's just a test. It's just a paper tiger, and with a light of a match, it'll go away. You know, it'll just poof, gone. You can just rip it and it's gone. So that's what this is all about. It's about that coming back around and going within to see where you really are.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell them all the time is, like, if you've broken up, if you've left a person, place, or thing in your life, and you want to go back to it, it's like, why do you want to go back? Did you get so used to the uncomfortableness that that's what feels comfortable to you? Mm-hmm. Well, then it's time to make some changes, because if you know that person, place, or thing is not good for you, but you want to go back to it, why do you want to go back to it? Mm-hmm. And I tell people, let's do an energy cleanse, let's do a chakra alignment. And when you're done with the process, then once you've done some cleansing, it's like taking an old car for maintenance. Once you've brought it up to speed or maintained it, then look at it and go, oh yeah, I don't deserve to be there anymore. I don't need to be there anymore. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, and then when you do the work, you usually don't want to be there anymore either.
Yeah. Because I remember my last relationship, once I started doing the work on me and realized how much I had lost myself in the relationship and how much I'd given up without wanting to. I just didn't want to be alone, wanted to be in a relationship. I wanted to be loved. But then as I started doing my own energy work and realized, like, I don't even love myself. How can I? And then
Absolutely.
and then we go back to the start of this conversation. It's like, then you start doing the work and you're like, I'm going to attract the perfect person in my life. And I remember in 2009, after that breakup, starting to manifest, because Facebook, thank you, Facebook, for reminding me all the things that I would type in. I want this type of person in my life. I want this type of energy in my life. And then it took about 3 years. And that's when I met Christian. And when I go back in those memories, don't tell him because it'll go to his head. But when I go back and read them, I'm like, this is Christian. This is Christian in my life. And so for those of you out there, the manifestation doesn't always work immediately. So give it a little time to work for you.
Well, it just like a plant, you plant the seed and then you don't go out the next day and expect the plant to be there. You gotta maintain it. You gotta water it. You gotta give it some sunshine and give it some love and give it some time. I think when I was in that period of being alone, it does get lonely until you figure out that you can have fun with being by yourself. And like I said, my universal friends never leave. So I'm really never alone. So,
yeah. And I think, again, I repeat what I said earlier, like making that connection with ourselves and learning to find ourselves interesting when we're alone.
Yes. Oh, that was what I was going to say. Once you empty that vessel, right? So say it's addiction and you stop and now you're in that period where there's the whatever you're addicted to is not there in your life anymore. The people are not there anymore. And now it's just this kind of lull. It's a time that you can, it's your time to turn it around and get shiny, to get to know yourself. And I don't know where I was going with that now, but it left.
Well, we're coming down to the end of the show. Let me just remind folks about some other stuff before you go. Remember, folks, we just went through this, but this is our lineup for the week. So make sure you check us out Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays with all of these shows. Kristen and Daniel's show, Fridays, the Cardivo, and Saturdays with 2 episodes to put it together. But make sure that you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and hit those notification buttons so that you know when we have some extra special shows for you. And if you stay tuned, because on Wednesdays, we're bringing back some of our guests from Put It Together Conversations. We're bringing them over to the Kristen and Daniel show. So you might see one of our guests on here co-hosting with us on the Kristen and Daniel show. If you have not bought my book, why not? Go check it out, Grubby Bunny and the Colors Game. You can find it on any of these 5 outlets. It's illustrated by mother and daughter Jennifer and Vivian Gatch. It's a book about meditation dedicated to kids, but it's good for everybody. So if you're a child or an adult and you want to learn how to channel your energy and align your chakras, go check it out, Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game. Anything else before we go?
I just really appreciate the opportunity. It's been great to meet you and Christian, and I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we're so excited, and I hope that once your card deck is done, you'll come back and show it to the audience and bring it with you.
I'd love to.
We're so excited to have you back. I'm going to put you in the green wheel while I say goodbye to everybody. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back for you.
Everybody.
For everybody watching, thank you so much for watching us. This has been another episode of Put It Together Conversations. Thank you for joining us. This show is about folks, about you, where you come from, where you are now, and what the journey has been like. And I hope that this conversation has motivated or inspired you to go after your own dreams and goals. Remember, we're here every Saturday at noon and 5 with different guests. If you want to be a guest on the show, why don't you join us? Send me a message and we'll visit with you and lighten up your interview. If you have somebody you want to recommend, please send us their information and we'll make sure to get in touch and bring them on the show. For now, I want to thank you all for joining us. I'm Daniel G. Garza. This is Put It Together, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.